bioeconomía y productos sustentables en base a madera. Muy buenos días a toda la audiencia que nos acompaña hoy día en la 20ª versión de Expo Corma, Reactivación Verde, Bioeconomía y Sustentabilidad. Nos encontramos hoy en este formato híbrido de manera presencial desde la sala Plenario del recinto ferial Expo Corma, ubicado Camino Coronel en la región de Biobío y de manera virtual transmitiendo vía streaming desde el sitio expocormadigital.cl. Expo Corma es la feria bianual líder de América Latina del sector forestal, organizada por la Corporación Chilena de la Madera Corma, fundada en 1952 como una asociación gremial que reúne a diversos actores del bosque y la industria. Potenciar una reactivación verde con foco en la bioeconomía, la sustentabilidad y una mirada de futuro de la reactivación forestal es la meta de la 20ª Feria Internacional Expo Corma. Es por esto que hoy nos encontramos iniciando esta jornada con una temática muy relevante: bioeconomía y productos sustentables en base a madera. El cambio climático nos ha impulsado a reformular los procesos productivos para reducir su impacto, de manera que sean amigables con el medio ambiente. Es así como este seminario profundizará en el concepto de la bioeconomía, la innovación y el desarrollo sustentable, a través del uso de materiales naturales y renovables como la madera y sus derivados. Así como el sector forestal y maderero cuenta con grandes oportunidades para contribuir a través de la innovación a la mitigación de los efectos del cambio climático. Antes de dar inicio a nuestra primera presentación, recordamos a la audiencia que se encuentra conectada a través de Expo Corma Digital que puedan realizar sus preguntas a través del chat, y a los asistentes que se encuentren de manera presencial que pueden realizarlo escaneando los códigos QR que se encontrarán en diversos puntos de la sala. Las preguntas se realizarán al final de cada presentación por expositor, por lo que es importante considerar que deben ser enviadas previo al término de cada charla. Asimismo, se comunica que las 3 exposiciones de este bloque se realizarán en inglés. Se realizarán con sistema de traducción simultáneo para la audiencia que desee esta opción. De esta manera, para iniciar con el seminario de bioeconomía y productos sustentables en base a madera, damos la bienvenida al primer charlista de este bloque, Fredrik Lindblad, jefe de desarrollo de mercados y negocios del municipio de Växjö, Suecia, que incluye el desarrollo de estrategias para la construcción en madera y la expansión de ciudades inteligentes. Además, cuenta con más de 25 años de experiencia en la industria en la práctica del campo de la cadena de suministro, que incluye funciones en el Departamento de Comercio de Suecia, como también compromisos a nivel de Consejo de Administración, siendo consultora a nivel internacional, incluyendo la implementación de proyectos específicos relacionados con varios gobiernos, organizaciones gubernamentales y ONGs. Así también, la investigación académica de Fredrik se centra en los componentes de mercado y estratégicos que influyen en el proceso de construcción, lo que permite un aumento en las viviendas multifamiliares de madera. Esto incluye la adquisición, el desarrollo de estrategias, la logística, la gestión y la tecnología de la construcción. A continuación, damos la bienvenida a Fredrik Lindblad, quien se une a esta transmisión desde Suecia, presentando From Wood Buildings to Smart Cities, Sustainable Constructions and Wood Building Strategies, de los edificios de madera a las ciudades inteligentes, estrategias de construcción sostenible y de madera. Hello, Fredrik. Thank you for being here in this version of Expo Corma. It's a pleasure to have your participation as a speaker from Sweden.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be able to speak halfway across the world in a very easy way. So very well organized. All right, I'll start and
thank you so much. Yeah, the screen is yours, so you can start sharing your presentation.
Then I'll do that. Let's see what happens.
Okay, we are seeing perfectly.
There you go.
Have to put, yes, perfect. So welcome, Fredrik.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So from that introduction, you already know the topic. I will try to share Växjö's development and history and development into the future as well. So from wood buildings to smart cities, and how we've done that using sustainable construction techniques and wood building strategies as the key factors. So I will build that on what is our DNA as Växjö, which has been a core success for us during this period as well. And as I said, developing towards the smart cities. And for those of you who know Växjö, the buildings that are quite famous in the cooking pot here as well. So if you've been here, you would recognize them, but I can understand if you haven't. So the starting point here. So what drove us into the wood building industry and wood building construction? It's been a long process, but first of all, you need to have a market for it. So what we've seen during a long time in Sweden is that we have had a gradual change towards urbanization that led into a shortage of housing units in those areas. And then we start to thinking about, okay, how can we change and how can we fill that gap, and start to seeing that those producing, let's say, single family houses using wood would be a good substitute and good support for those producing multi-family houses using a wood frame. So we started looking into that kind of gap and void and how to support it. But as we did that, it started to be clear as well that we needed to gain a broader understanding of what that might entail as well, both from a knowledge perspective, but also from a market transitional perspective, since there's so many different factors influencing the development phase. And we have seen during the past a slight increase of the amount of wood buildings, family or multi-family houses being erected in Sweden. But as you can see on this slide, we still have a long way to go. We've had a steady level, let's say around the 90% mark for concrete buildings, and around 10-ish%, the blue line on the bottom, for construction using a wood frame. And one of the main reasons here, or two reasons, I say, it's been knowledge and understanding of what wood buildings really is and what they can do. And also that the competitive advantage of the concrete industry has been greater since they've had the infrastructure already. So these has been some hurdles and barriers that we needed to overcome and look at. So how can we as a municipality change that? And then we look at the different development possibilities. And what I'm talking about now is obviously our journey going forward, but this is transferable to other change management processes as well. So how can governmental and public entities support development in certain areas? So as such, we have different tools to use to facilitate development. It could be legislation, laws, fees, it could be subsidies as well. So both the stick and the carrot to change how this is evolving. But predominantly as well here is competence. It's the understanding both from the procuring part, but also from the construction part. I've been faced with colleagues in the municipality industry that really don't know what sustainable construction is or what wood building is. They're very traditional view of this, like a very picturesque little building in the forest with red sides and very traditional. So what we have to do here is to clearly state our intention towards the industry. And we as Växjö municipality have done that. We started our first construction using wood frame already in '95 in this modern industrial way. And that's been followed by several different strategy documents going forward. So 105, 13, and 18. That has been more and more evolved. So from a more technical perspective in the earlier days to a more integrated sustainability perspective in the latter version, 2018. And by doing so, we are supporting the industries. We are putting a flag in the ground saying we support wood buildings. That means that companies can start to invest in production technology because they can rely on what we do as a municipality, so they can gain economies of scale in their production process. That means that they can produce cheaper units for us as end users as well, and which obviously makes it much more popular for people to live in. So those have been key factors. And if you look at it from a greater perspective, this has also been highlighted not just by this lovely invitation from you, but also in a special edition in New York Times during this summer, where they looked at our wood building strategy as a key development factor for wood buildings globally as well. And obviously, we haven't been able to do this by ourselves. This is a cooperation among a lot of different parties here. And I think that's the key factor, is that it needs to be open. As we want to have this changed from a closed innovation process to an open innovation process, where we can share our success factors as well, and also share the failures in order to eradicate them from the process altogether. It's also important then to focus on other things than just the commercial goal. We need to have the clear targets, and we need to have a clear understanding on our, let's say, the responsibilities and how to use the resources in a very cost efficient way. So this has very much been a collaborative approach already from 1995 up until where we are today. In the previous slide, when I had the three different strategies, we are currently working on a new strategy, which is towards the smarter cities. So we're taking it even further, which I'm going to talk about later in the presentation. So going from traditional stick and stone kind of wood buildings to an integrated strategy, including digitalization and everything else. But as I said, we have, as a municipality, have had a base in our sustainability program as well, because wood buildings are seen then as a sustainable construction material. So we took the UN's sustainability development goals that we all know and love, and did a version of our own as well that fits our part of the world. So where we have 5 different goals and we have 9 different challenges. And from a wood building perspective, you have the climate and eco-intelligence and the growing and inclusive as key factors here. So we want to incorporate innovative solution involving the surrounding industries in order for us to be able to grow our city and grow a new concept when it comes to sustainable construction. But we also need to be mature and understand that the resources needs to be used in a very sustainable way, so it actually reaches further than it did before. So anything from having a sustainable harvesting solution in the forest into the sawmill, into the production sites. We're looking at the total process here in order to create a city or the municipality where everybody wants to live and work and be happy and be close to the environment. So this has been very helpful for the industry development. But also, what has been a key factor for us is when we do our work, it's to have measurability and traceability, because it's one thing to just set the target and set the goals, but if you can't measure the deliverables, it's very pointless to do anything. So one of our earlier goals that we have had is that every building project in the municipality need to be tested using a wood frame or wood building technology as a primary solution, which once again drives the industry to change their methodology and see finance possibilities in that as well. We also have a goal that at least 50% of everything constructed within the municipality control should be using a wood frame. So by stating this, we are supporting the industry and say, okay, you can invest and be part of our change process here. We have had a long history of engaging with both researchers, architects, and everybody else involved in the building process in order to share best practices. You can't do this in isolation. You need, as I said, change from the closed to the open innovation and share our plans for the development in the future. These are some of the key factors. Sorry, that was fast. Yet not everything is sustainability. Let's not forget about the importance of the production process and the benefits of using wood in comparison to concrete. It's lightweight. It's easy to distribute using traditional road transport or other formats as well. It's something that we can let's say, develop the production process in a different way and use different methodology than traditional concrete structure and get better solution, get better products. So it's not just about the sustainability and those goals, it's about so many other things as well that is linked together. And what we have done here in Växjö as a key factor is use a lot of our development projects as test beds, both for the industry, but also for the academia as well. So we had a very large building areas and had that as a research platform where we studied it from both the pre-study, so from the procurement, from the project management and all the software factors which are in the green bubbles to the hardcore, let's say, production process and sound, vibration, moisture, and other design factors in the blue areas. To the end of the project where we look at the end users perception of it. So we have a full perspective of a building process from planning, procuring, production, and how the residents feel living in it, which has been quite an interesting development as such. What we found as drivers here when we looked at this research is that obviously we need to reduce the environmental impact. We dedicated land in Växjö municipality to be used specifically for wood building, which clearly sends some signals as well. And using the land allocation process for us, which is a legislative tool that we have in Sweden, where we as a municipality in a way can bypass the Public Procurement Act and sell land to developers and contractors specifying what we want them to do. So let's say you have to build using a wood frame technology. So we can specify these requirements, which yet again then drove development within the wood building sector quite dramatically. And if you remember the graph I showed you earlier, during 2019, we saw a dip in the concrete side and an increase on the wood frame side, so up to 20%. So we are starting to see a change in favor of the wood building technology and sustainable construction. And I think these are some factors. As I said, it's not just about technical sides, which is easy for architects and everybody else to focus on. It's equally important to look at the strategic softer market sides. And that's what we're doing now when we're looking forward. What you see on the left side here, wood building strategy, sustainability down to cooperation, that's the history of where we've been and what we have done successfully. On the right side, you see what we're starting to see the marketplace, circular economy and market models, energy, digitalization, leading up to the smarter city. And that's where we're going forward. We need to incorporate other factors in our wood building strategy, our sustainable construction strategy, in order to reach there. So it's not just about the construction and the wood building in itself now, it's about so many other factors that contribute to sustainable society and a smarter city. I'm part of a group in Sweden that are looking how to see how the future cities would look like, let's say 2050. And we've started this discussion. So this is obviously very early and obvious findings, but we are looking at robotization. We're looking about the digitalization. Climate change is going to be a big driver for us. So how can we handle this? What kind of efforts do we need to do in order to meet these kind of challenges? And for us to construct and plan our cities, but also for our inhabitants to have a life that is sustainable for the long term as well. So these are some of these factors that we talked about, but also what do we need to develop going forward? Since those are the kind of the trends that we saw, but we need to be transparent. We need to share the information. We need to be flexible in the way how we think in developing new cities and new construction methodologies. The cooperation between politics and politicians and business entities needs to be much stronger as well, which in the past has proven to be a success factor for the wood building industry and the wood building sector. So those have been key in the past and something that we will take forward. Also being flexible about building rules in order to support and sustain new business models, because in order to change and be faster going into the future, you need to look at the world and the business and the city in different ways. And also having that long-term strategic perspective. We started 1995 with our wood building strategy, and we are here now, and now we're taking the next steps. So we are in it for the long term. And our next test bed that we have, in comparison to what I discussed before, is called Crossways, which is our new smart city concept. So it's a big area of our city trying to incorporate new solutions. So looking at sustainable energy as a part of it. So how can we use methods to create sustainable energy and save the energy locally using batteries, for example? Or how can we change the healthcare system in a sustainable way? And more importantly, then, how can the circularity and circular models support the development of cities, from everything from reuse of products to complete new developments? And that's the big challenge for us as well going forward, because this is not a complete straightforward process from that perspective, because it includes a lot of different companies, not just in the building industry, in the building process, but elsewhere. How can we connect the city with smart ecosystems? That means that how can the inhabitants live in this sustainable city, sharing information and having information access at the fingertip that makes their life easy and easier to live in a sustainable way as well. It all links together in the sustainability goals as well. So it is much more complex than just figure out solutions to build higher or something else. We need to think in a different way, which is proven to be very, very complex. But there is a road to this transformation as well. And we need to look at this transformation. We need to change from the throwaway economy and looking at the business process in a different way, first of all, using a very sustainable material in our construction process, but also optimizing the use of the materials going into the process and for the remaining life of the building itself and the inhabitants in the area. And that in itself then will give us a lot of job opportunities and solutions. But to tie it back a little bit to where we were from these three strategies, linking that to circularity, energy, digitalization, and smart cities, we have then to combine that with the circular approach, both from the user perspective, but also from the producer perspective. And as I mentioned in the previous slide, this is where it becomes really, really difficult. And you need to, in a way, fence this off in a way so you don't tackle everything at once, because that's very hard. But figure out different ways where we can make a change, make gradual change, and predominantly as well collaborate with other entities in your country, as we do, but also internationally to share information to build a sustainable city of the future. And for us here in Växjö, the earliest success factors we've had using within the wood building side that we will take with us going forward in the sustainable building program and the smarter city program is the fact that our politician has been united in their view towards sustainability and sustainable construction programs. That then created the earlier policies and strategies. We also were very, very lucky since they had the foresight and dedicating areas for this, and they still do, where we can have live test beds for both companies, municipality, and academia to test their new solution going forward. And that's within the collaboration triple helix. So all of these four factors combined with the topic has been success factors for us, for our wood building strategy, for our sustainable construction strategy, but also now going forward in our sustainable and smart city development strategies, which is on its way. So key factors for us here, and I think the most important part here is that we continue to share knowledge and understanding throughout the world here, because we are all on the same path and we need to share information. Thank you so much for listening to me.
Thank you so much, Fredrik, for your presentation regarding these strategies towards a smart construction and sustainable cities. Agradecemos también la... Sorry.
Thank you.
So we are very pleased with the large and enthusiastic audience that we have had during your presentation, Fredrik. And let me tell you that we have some questions related to the topic you have just presented us. So the first one says, have you thought about exporting or transferring this model of promotion to regional development and sustainability of cities? Where can we find more information about it?
This is the information in a way. We are very much the forerunner for wood building strategies in Sweden, and I must say then probably in Northern Europe as well, since we started 1995. And the easiest way, obviously, is to follow different kind of information. But please just contact me directly if you need some specific information. But as I said, it is a very much a collaborative approach where we can have the possibility to present in this forum, or just having companies, municipalities, and countries visiting us, or vice versa. So sharing information.
Perfect. So there is another one that says, what concrete advantages has the implementation of wood construction brought to the inhabitants of these smart cities in terms of quality of life?
Very interesting question. I sat with a research project yesterday and discussed how we could research about the health benefits of using wood. So very subjective in a way. I think it's very difficult. And it's especially since a lot of residents, they don't understand that they live in the wood building to start with. I personally did a research project where I talked to architects and residents in, I think, around 500 apartments in Sweden, mixed between concrete and wood. And then they have the different opinions. I think around 90% of the inhabitants had no clue it was a wood building. And the architects, they appreciated the openness and the open wood surfaces and all these kind of fancy stuff, whereas the residents, they wanted proximity to the city and a cheap accommodation. So I think there is still some way to go where we can overlap the gap, but I think we're getting closer. And I think the more we're changing tack from technical research to health and benefit research, we can start seeing much clearer where we're going with those questions as well.
Perfect. And in that sense, do you have a plan of education or promotion of the sustainable construction for the population of these places, or maybe from the academy in a social approach?
Yes, we do. We try to, since a lot of it is public information. If we do a new project, so we try to share information. But also looking at the academia, we are trying to incorporate and support the research projects, and also to change the content of courses that's being taught at the university to match where we're going with circularity and so forth as well. So we're trying to do it from different kind of perspectives.
Perfect. So thank you so much, Frederick, for your presentation once again in this Expo Corma. Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you here as a speaker from Daxio City.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, and hope to see you again in some future projects.
Likewise. Bye-bye.
Bye. Para continuar con este seminario, Bioeconomía y Productos Sustentables en Base a Madera, invitamos al segundo charlista de este bloque, Robert Schmitz, arquitecto y socio de White Architecture, diseñador reconocido en Suecia, donde ha obtenido diversos premios en esta disciplina, además de contar con una amplia experiencia en proyectos de importancia cultural y de gran complejidad. Algunas de las propuestas ganadoras en las que ha trabajado incluyen la sede de SEV, el nuevo edificio municipal de Tavi y el Centro Cultural de Skellefteå. Desde 2013, Robert es nombrado director de concursos de Estocolmo y forma parte de la dirección de la oficina estratégica. Antes de continuar con el segundo expositor de este seminario, se recuerda a la audiencia que se encuentra conectada a través de Expo Corma Digital que pueden realizar sus preguntas a través del chat, y a los asistentes que se encuentran de manera presencial en el recinto, que pueden escanear el código QR que encontrarán en diversos puntos de la sala. Así también les recordamos que las preguntas se realizan al final de cada presentación por expositor, por lo que es importante considerar que deben ser enviadas previo al término de cada charla. Asimismo, se comunica que la siguiente exposición, al igual que la primera, se realizará en inglés con sistema de traducción simultáneo para la audiencia que desee esta opción. A continuación damos la bienvenida a Robert Schmitz, quien se une a esta transmisión desde Suecia también, presentando Sara Cultural Center, one of the world's tallest timber buildings to date. Centro Cultural Sara, uno de los edificios de madera más altos a la fecha. Hello, Robert.
Hello.
A pleasure to greet you, and thank you for being here in this version of Expo Corma. We are so glad to have your participation as a speaker.
Thank you. Should I share screen?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Hopefully share like this.
So,
and you see?
Yeah, but not yet in full screen.
Not yet in full screen, like that. Does it work?
Yes, but it's in the presentation mode.
Oh, okay.
So it's not in the full screen.
Let's see again.
Yet.
We can do like this.
Perfect.
Does it work?
Yeah.
Do you have the?
We still have the text.
Oh, okay.
Below.
Let's do like this.
You have to. Yeah. Perfect. Okay.
Good.
Welcome, Robert. Thank you.
That's good. I'm going to take on from where Fredrik stopped, basically, and show you an example of this implementation of the wooden strategy that the municipality. There's lots of the municipalities that have taken on this strategy document that Fredrik was talking about, and the collaboration and how to build more sustainable. So I'm going to show you an example, the newest example of that. Sara Kulturhus and Sara Culture Center. And this is the key factor for the Skellefteå municipality to become more attractive and grow from 70,000 to up to 100,000 people over the next 10 years. Let's do, and this is, and it's it's situated in Skellefteå, and it's 20 stories of mass timber. High rise. It's the second largest in the world, if you depending a little bit how you can count. But I'm an architect and a partner at White Architecte, and I've been working here for 15 years. We think that sustainable is the most important factor when designing. So, and by 2030, all our architecture is carbon neutral through design excellence. And we do this in working in an interdisciplinary manner throughout the entire design process. But what you see here is that in Sweden, we emit about 10 times more greenhouse gases than we can afford to. And the building sector is a great part of that emissions, 21%. So I think it's really important that we change our mindset and really advocate for sustainable ways of how to build. And of course, one of that methods is using timber in the process. Being self-employed and we own our own company, we have the power to reinvest our profit back into project-based research. As in 2019, we invested 3 million euros back into this, and this is to help us become better in sustainable approach for our projects. We call this, we channel this money through White Research Lab. And one of these research labs are timber, and it's focusing on timber. And one way of doing implementation of these is doing competitions. And I'm also head of the competitions for the Stockholm office. So here we can really trying to learn and learn the characteristics of timber in this case. And this is our proposal for Stora Enso headquarters in Helsinki, where we won honorable mention. And here the focus was really in about learning how the LVL beams is working to gain such a flexible spaces as possible. And another project and an open competition that we won is a quarter in Riga in Latvia. And this is an interface between an old brewery and a new establishment in timber, and how to create a culture atmosphere while watching it, while doing it. So we're being quite successful in this project. But back to Sweden again, and I want to show you an early example of this. Is the tallest timber structure in Sweden pre-Sara Culture Center. And it's a church. It was built in 1912. It's 34 meters high. And this church has actually been moved, quite recently. And that's really an example of how you, when you work with timber, how sustainable that could be. That if it doesn't fit where any longer for any kind of reasons, you can move it or you can disassemble it and do something else for it. So this has become an inspiration for our project when we worked for the Sara Culture Center. The city of Skellefteå, it's in the north of Sweden, just below the Arctic Circle, with a subarctic climate, with long, harsh winters but fairly nice summers. And of course, they have a long tradition with timber. They also the city is where it is because of the abundance of forests surrounding it, but also of the mining industry. But it has developed quite an advanced timber industry, I would say, almost leading industry. And they also have the academia focusing on timber technology as a branch for the University of Luleå, which is another city close by. And they have also applied this timber strategy, and it's a part of the wood cities, which allows them to really investigate, is it possible to do projects in timber before they start to develop. So they launched an international competition in 2016 about this project, the new culture center. This project was going to mend the city and make it more attractive. And of course, Skellefteå has a large timber heritage, being in the forest. But in the city center during 1960s, they have been demolished and replaced with concrete buildings instead. So that was a take for us to bring back timber into the city, proposing timber. The site, this is the most central plot in the entire city. This is quite small, this city, but still. Just between the main square and a train station. It was intended to be a culture building when the plan was made in 1905. So it was almost 100 years ago, but it still the city still didn't decide to do anything on it. So it has worked as a bus station up until now. So this has been really a key to really bring back these 4 different cultural establishments that's scattered around the city today into one building. And we worked out strategies to work with this is quite a big program, or a large program that was going to fit in a really, for this occasion, small site. But we wanted this to be a part of the city, and not just a building that you went to when you were going to see a show. That this building should live and interact with the city and enhance and amplify the city life around it. So with a number of strategies, we worked out this to create new public indoor spaces and creating a new landmark for Skellefteå, and but in an entirely new scale. And here the timber became crucial in working with this, because the material is something that the people of Skellefteå could relate to, and they didn't feel that it was becoming too big. Here is the image of the high-rise as framing the main square, and here you can see the construction timber in the facade, underneath the facade, going all the way up to the top. The program, it's 17,000 square meters of culture center and 13,000 square meters of hotel and conference, and it's with a lot of stages for performing arts, an art gallery, a library, and back of house production in the low rise, and the hotel and conference center in the high rise. It's a split level, you could call it. So it has 2 entrance levels. So, and this one, the first one is facing the main square, and here we have the library, and the hotel lobby is placed, and then there is a cellar behind. And here we also have a giant culture staircase. Here it is. This is connecting these 2 stairs, and from here you can you can go to all the different operations within the building. So this is something that was not planned in the competition, and it's something that we contributed with, because we wanted the people of the Skellefteå to have a place to go to and meet and interact without having to pay for it. So there would be the new viewing pot or viewing place in Skellefteå. And all the focuses was on making this in as much exposed timber as possible, and for the texture of it. On the second level, we have a great foyer running all the way throughout the building, connecting all the different stage and exhibition spaces, which is placed in the center of the building. And we have worked with with a flexibility. We didn't want to name any of the different rooms or halls, hallways, because we wanted people to adapt them and so that they can use them in many different ways. For example, here are we in the foyer where this dance group have decided to do rehearsals during daytime. We feel that's fantastic how you adopt spaces that intentionally maybe was not intended for that, but they like the atmosphere that so much, so and they can really use it. And also we have worked with a lot of stairs connecting the library with the theater foyers, so that the different operations can work side by side in the same time, or work together, more importantly, and make new connections and collaborations within the building. Throughout the design process, we have worked a lot with renderings and vision images, so that we can really explain for the builders and all our stakeholders that what we're talking about and how we wanted the building to express. So this is a vision image from very early on in the design process, and this is the end result the day before the inauguration. As you can see, it's we have managed to keep it quite the same as we intended. The thrusters in the ceilings are an expression of how to optimize material, and where here we have the timber taking the pressure, and the steel is taking the tension, and this creates an abstract form that runs all the way throughout the building and creates this as atmosphere and recognition for the culture center. So there's a section running alongside the building, and here you can see in blue the 6 stages, and they're all almost all is placed on level 2, so that they can be reached from the same place, basically, which leads to good communications between them, so that you can double use them, basically. And here I'm here. This is also the day before the inauguration. This is the biggest one. We call it stage 1. It has 1,200 seats, and it's also built entirely in timber. If you're standing in the orchestra ditch below me there, when I stand up to the ceiling, it's 30 meters. So it's quite big room, every space that we have created. And we have been working a lot with to optimize the acoustics experience in the wall with acoustic panels, and made this pattern to achieve that. And they are in solid timber, and also creating an atmosphere and a tactility that people actually want to touch and feel the material. The hotel is leveled up in the riser above the grand staircase and the main entrance hall. It has 205 hotel rooms, conference center, gym, rooftop spa, 3 restaurants, etc. Works as a solitaire. And it contains on each level 18 pre-manufactured hotel modules, which is stacked on top of each other and stabilized between 2 cores on each end. And the core and the shafts are also made in CLT. So everything here you see is cross-laminated timber slabs or glue lamp pillars. And the hotel rooms, to do this, we managed to work with the hotel rooms so that our aim was to for us to see the expressed timber or the construction timber inside. So this was an image from the competition in 2015. And here is the image from the result. As you can see, we have really worked with expressing or showing the CLT timber. So this is construction timber that you see on walls and the ceiling, and you have this great view overlooking Plenario. And on level 20, the top level, there is a spa, and underneath that there is a restaurant as well. So we have made this building public in that sense, that we allow everyone to get up in this building and have a new perspective overlooking Plenario. Carbon neutrality, where we have, of course, the building industry have a lot of emissions, carbon dioxide equivalents that we need with a footprint, but we need to have a handprint as well. So to challenge that, we need to renewable energy and securizations from carbon, which is what you do, what the timber does for you, and also work with other renewable energy offsite, for example, wind power or PVs. And our calculation says that our building has become climate positive building. So it's during its life cycle, it binds twice as much carbon as it produces or it emits while producing or transportation and when you build it. So it's fantastic result. So this building has a lot of different functions, and it made this into a library of solutions. For example, we have 27 different types of outer walls in the building, and the entire building is made of timber. We have a concrete foundation and basement, but the shafts, stabilizing walls, and all the vertical load bearing objects is in timber, but we needed to put some concrete on the top levels in order to prevent the building to sway too much, so that we could prevent seasickness. It's not for this. It's not for the stabilization. It's more for the swayness that we needed to do that. And here you also can see the 13 stories of the pre-manufactured 3D models on top of each other, which is some kind of record as well. This enabled us to do a very fast construction. It took 73 weeks of montage, the timber structure. It was built up in 13 different segments, so that we could, because we didn't use any weather protection, so we needed to have protected roofs quite quickly. As you can see, timber enables to to have really large element, and the largest one was 27 meters times 3 meters and weighed 10 tons. With one crane, we can build this, and it was around this the stage 1. The only thing that when you have these big elements, it's a little bit wind sensitive, so that we needed to have the weather with us while constructing this building. And here is the first hotel module, and this was pre-manufactured in a factory just 40 kilometers outside from the plot, outside of Skellefteå, and it's all locally produced spruce from the region, and this was made in a safe environment, and also so that all the stakeholders and the builders could see and learn from this first edition how to apply it to the building. And but this is actually we also have it in the building as well, so that's quite fun. So why volumetric hotel modules? Because these are over 200 the same units, so we have a large quantity and a few variations. It shortens the construction times. You could do a parallel montage while constructing on site. You can in the same time construct and work in the factory with the hotel modules. You work in a safe, controlled working environment, and also you can have controlled logistics and quality protocols while working with them. And this on the production section, there hasn't been any complaints from neighbors. It's been a really quiet working place, and we saved about a year of construction time in total if you compared if we were supposed to do this in concrete, for example. So that was a huge part of money saving for us. The building envelope, the low rise has a wooden frame building, but the outer walls is made from CLT. In the high rise, we have a double skin facade, which is ventilated and works with as a warmth pillow in the winter and reduces heat in the summer. And in between, we have sunscreen. Fire requirements. The building is fully sprinkled. The hotel tower has, of course, tier 1 and tier 2 evacuation stairs leading directly out in the open. The building is rated BRO, Swedish system. For the culture center or the low part, you need to get out of the building in 60 minutes. And for the hotel part, you have R90, and so you have to be outside of the building in less than 90 minutes in case of fire. So this building in this new and having this new mindset of how to build and rethink construction has been really empowered everyone in this process. We have questioned methods of working, since this is a test bed building really, and we needed to understand the characteristics with timber so that we can optimize it in each detail, I would say. So the local power company and the company called ABB has also worked together and created innovation in the energy system. So saying that this is not just a building that is optimizing itself, it's connected to the entire city grid with electricity and also heat and cooling, helping them to be as efficient as possible. It has the highest certification in the Swedish Green Council. And also we have, instead of diesel engines for backup, we work with batteries. That is from the local battery company that has been established while this building has been working on. And Coop, this project is now one of 17 projects showing as showcases at the conference in COOP 26, it should say there, inspiring for sustainable buildings and a sustainable future. And I hope I could have inspired you a little bit as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your interesting presentation, Robert, regarding wooden construction and especially the Sara Cultural Center. That I saved you before. Congratulations, because we thought it's an amazing project. Agradecemos también a la amplia audiencia que se encuentra conectada y a quienes nos acompañan de manera presencial con todos los protocolos necesarios en Expo Corma. Robert, let me tell you that we have had many questions, of which many were answered during your presentation, but we still have some.
Okay.
And the first one is, what has it been like for you as an architecture studio to reach the carbon negativity? And what are the goals or challenges that you have from now on for development of more sustainable cities and buildings from architectural and urban design?
I think from the beginning we didn't have any. We wanted to, of course, this building to be as sustainable as possible, but our goal was to do it in as much timber as possible, because we knew that was the best way of in harvesting carbon dioxide, I would say. But having this mindset allows us to really reach out to other developers and convince them to also work in other methods than they always have done in concrete and steel, for example. So we have a lot of new projects going on, which they have changed their construction into timber, for example.
Okay. And the second one is the regulation in Sweden was not a problem to design and build this building. You
Yes.
spoke about the safeguards before the fire. Was there another issue in particular that had to be paid special attention?
Well, of course, we needed to really be sure for fire, and of course, but the good thing in Sweden, it's a performance-based regulation, so it's not material-based or how many story sequences that is regulated. So basically, you have to prove that the building can resist fire for a certain of time. So that has been a challenge. But I mean, timber is a really good material because you really can calculate how fast it burns or how slow it burns in this case. And since it's we're working with this CLT, which is really thick, it's charring. It really protects itself from fire, like tree trunks in the forests. So it's I think it's I think that has been a revelation for us working with this. There is more. What other question is acoustics, for example, how you work with that in timber construction. I think that's a bigger issue.
Yeah, also in that construction there is a cultural center, so I imagine that there are concerts or theater plays or
exactly. So I mean the walls in the theaters, they're over 1 meter thick, and there is like a double box in a box basically to make it for the installation acoustically.
And the last one, how has been the reception of the inhabitants of this place with this great, with this great building built in wood, especially in Sweden, where you are very familiar with wood as a construction material, and also thinking that this is a building for general public as well, right?
So it's a public building, and it's built for the people of Skellefteå, and it's. I think this is the first building in Sweden that is so much timber, and it's a public timber, and we work with the architecture. It's not a factory hall or where there is a lot of sports venues that is built in timber with glulam pillar beams, for example. So this is, I think, this was a key for us to enable this building in this very sensitive plot, I would say. I mean, we introduced an entire new scale to this city, so it needed to be nice and friendly, and that's what timber really is about.
Nice, perfect. So, Robert, thank you once again for your participation in this Expo Corma. Nice to see you again as well. You were with us in the Wood Week last year, so yeah, always a pleasure. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having me. Enjoy.
Bye.
Bye.
Para continuar con este seminario de bioeconomía y productos sustentables en base a madera, invitamos al tercer y último charlista de este bloque, Tommy Niemann, quien cuenta con más de 20 años de experiencia en funciones de desarrollo empresarial, estrategia y dirección de empresas en el sector de los productos químicos y bioplásticos. Adicionalmente, ha propuesto como objetivo profesional reducir las emisiones mundiales de 1 gigatoneladas y pretende convertir la producción mundial de plásticos en biobasada. Tiene experiencia en bioeconomía y economía circular, ventas, marketing y estrategia, además de creación de cadenas de valor, disrupción, tecnología de materiales en cuanto a bioplásticos, bioquímicos y biocombustibles. Adicionalmente, cuenta con un máster en Química y Tecnología de Polímeros de la Universidad Tecnológica de Helsinki, Universidad Aalto, y actualmente se desempeña como CCO de Woodley hoy. Antes de continuar con el tercer y último expositor de este seminario, se recuerda a la audiencia que se encuentra conectada a través de Expo Corma Digital, que pueden realizar sus preguntas a través del chat, y a los asistentes que se encuentran de manera presencial, que pueden escanear el código QR que se encuentra en diversos puntos de la sala. Las preguntas, como se ha hecho anteriormente, se realizan al final de cada presentación por expositor, por lo que es importante que sean enviadas previo al término de cada charla. Asimismo, se comunica que la siguiente exposición también se realizará en inglés con un sistema de traducción simultáneo para la audiencia que desee esta opción. Damos la bienvenida a Tommy Niemann, quien se une a esta transmisión desde Finlandia, y a continuación nos presentará Woodley, Transforming the Plastic Sector with Recyclable Wood-Based Plastics. Woodley, transformando el sector del plástico con plásticos reciclables a base de madera. Hello, Tommy. It's a pleasure to greet you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for inviting
being
me
here.
to speak here. Yes, yes. I will share my screen now so we can start my presentation.
Perfect.
Good. All right.
So yeah, we are seeing your presentation. So welcome to Expo Gorma.
Good.
Thank you.
Yes, so I will be speaking about Woodley and how we aim to transform the plastic sector with recyclable wood-based plastics. So the company name and the product name is Woodley, and we have an ambition that by 2035 we will have 10 million tons of Woodley production in the world. This represents only a few percent of plastics, but in order to get there, we would need about 5% of the current pulp production capacity. Through recycling, however, we can achieve to replace 15% of fossil plastics if we recycle the 10 million tons 5 times every year to make it 60 million tons. By doing so, we would attain a market with a value of more than $100 billion if and when we hopefully achieve this in the years to come. At the same time, as we produce plastics made from wood that have absorbed carbon dioxide from the atmosphere during their growth, we would store this carbon dioxide into the products. And when we recycle them, we create a pool of 100 million tons of CO2 into the recyclable plastics. This is massive in terms of all the emissions related to the plastics industry today. Woodley is an entirely new kind of carbon neutral plastic based on wood. We say it is carbon neutral because that is a simple way of communicating that when we bring the material to the market, the production emissions are actually slightly lower than the carbon dioxide stored into the product. And we are aiming to make it entirely positive in the future by introducing more and more sustainable raw materials into Woodley. We are a Finland-based technology startup with a wide number of patents and applications. Currently, we have a team of 7 people, and we develop and produce Woodley. We have launched the first Woodley products last year in a packaging application, and our business model is focusing on selling the Woodley granulates and licensing our IPR to our production partners. Woodley is made from FSC certified cellulose and has a bio content of 40 to 60% currently, certified by TÜV Austria. This is because part of Woodley is still from fossil origin due to the components we use to make cellulose thermoplastic. In terms of end of life, we focus on recycling. So Woodley is not compostable or biodegradable, but we focus on collecting back the material after use, detecting with near infrared and separating it from plastic stream and recycling it. It is easily recyclable mechanically. 5 times does not show any change in the properties. If Woodley does end up in incineration, the emissions are 70% lower compared to fossil plastics. Our LCA concludes the carbon neutrality of Woodley as a material. Woodley is a drop-in granulate, so it can be produced and converted with existing equipment, whether it is film blowing, sheet extrusion, or 3D printing, or injection molding, injection blow molding for bottles, etc. It can also be produced and processed with high temperatures, similar to the fossil materials, and this also enables high speeds in processing. What we have also learned through our consumer studies is that when promoting this kind of materials with the right claims on the market, the willingness to pay a premium for a sustainable material is achievable, and the likelihood to purchase such a material is higher compared to conventional materials. And our partners have been using claims such as wood-based, carbon-neutral, recyclable, and better for nature. In terms of end of life, besides recycling, we always look at the opportunity of reuse. Reusing materials is essential in terms of circular economy to reduce the amount of resources that we utilize to produce materials. Recycling, primarily mechanical, alternatively chemical recycling such as gasification can be used. And finally, waste to energy is the last and the least wanted option. This is how we see the future of plastics altogether. In the years to come, as recycling grows and bio-based feedstock is more available for plastics production, there can be several sources for raw materials from the bio-based and biomass going into plastics. Lignocellulosics from wood origin, such as woodley, can be one source. Sugars and starches, there are already materials like PLA and bio-based PET in that sector being made from sugars and starches. Natural oils can be turned into hydrocarbons and consequently into basically all plastics. And then, of course, a lot of organic waste and biomass is available in the nature, and CO2 from the atmosphere that can be used to produce plastics. If we produce 40 million tons of bio-based polymers and make sure that they are recycled 5 times every year, they turn up into 240 million tons of plastics, which suddenly becomes 40% bio content in all the 400 million tons of plastics produced year to date on an annual basis. So this is how we see a combination of recycling and using bio-based feedstock for plastics production is the future. How do we then ensure that there is enough raw material? First of all, we have to use only sustainably managed forest raw materials. We can utilize different waste and residues. In the previous presentations, there was construction works, and there is always sawdust and other pieces of wood coming from construction work that could be utilized in our processes to produce plastics. There are other sources for cellulosic feedstocks, and we have to maintain biodiversity and continue reforesting and stop deforestation to make sure that there is enough forest available for all the applications. Then we move into the production. We stop essentially the fossil feedstock coming into the production of plastics. We use the materials efficiently and multiple times. We are introducing a take back and buyback scheme for our material, so that if there is a product made from woodley which is no longer wanted in the market, an old packaging, an old product, we are willing to take that back to make sure that it is recycled. Then from conventional and from consumers, the plastics are collected and sorted as part of the waste, and via recycling, they can be utilized again to make new plastics products. The minimizing of losses in the closed system is an essential part in this cycle. And one thing, of course, since we are producing a valuable biomaterial, we want to stop the incineration and landfilling of all plastics. It doesn't make sense to burn valuable materials or to landfill them, as we could continue using them and recycling them. These are the only ways to ensure that there is enough material for all the products and packaging that we need when we need to move from fossils to bio-based materials like wood-based materials. Then I will be showing some case examples made from Woodley. So last year, in the beginning of the year, we launched a flower packaging, a film, a conical bag made from Woodley for the largest retail chain in Finland, Kesko, which is on the global 100 most sustainable grocery trade company in the world. We also launched a packaging for herbs and salads with a brand called Vihreä Keiju here in Finland. In these kind of thin films, we have been replacing low density, linear low density, high density polypropylene, oriented polypropylene, and PET in various applications. We have launched sausage packaging made with Woodley with HK scan. We have launched textile packaging for retail and e-commerce with a company called Black Moda. They can be produced with or without a hanger, where the hanger is also made from Woodley. We have piloted thermoformed packaging for fishing lures made from Woodley, replacing PET. We have made 3D printed electronics utilizing Woodley. Here is a headset, made an electronics headset. We have injection molded boxes for kitchenware applications, replacing styrene acrylonitrile and polypropylene. And in other applications, we have replaced polystyrene, polycarbonate, ABS as an example in these kind of applications. Woodley is extremely versatile. So in various different application testings and customer cases, if we look at all the plastics used in the world and the volumes of plastics, and if you look at the lists of plastics that we have been replacing, these represent 94% of all the volume of plastics utilized in the world. In addition, we have also replaced two-component polyurethane in wood coatings with a film. So Woodley can be used to replace almost any kind of plastic in many applications. Another example of thermoforming, a face mask with an 83 millimeter thickness or height here. We have made bottles for cosmetics purposes, for example, with injection blow molding. And here we have injection molded jars and cups, dishwasher safe, reusable, replacing, for example, PET, single-use drinking cups, and cosmetic packaging with hinges and closures for makeup. Excuse me. So these were some examples of injection molded. Then we come back to some film applications and extrusion coated applications. For beverage companies, we have produced with UPM Raflatac a laminate adhesive for example, beer or for jams. And we have also been working with another company called Amerplast on wraparound labels for water bottles. With extrusion coating onto paper, Woodley works exceptionally well as also. And it can also be laminated onto paperboard, both high gloss or matte packagings. This is actually for an electronics packaging made from board. So that was a quick run through about Woodley. You can have my contact details, and happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you so much, Tommy, for your interesting presentation and for being here as well as a speaker in Expo Gorma 2021. And let me tell you that we have some questions. And the first one is how it was during the COVID pandemic, applying woodly as a replacement for plastic at a time when, given the conditions, many hygienic implements were disposable and only for one use.
Yes. So, of course, COVID caused some delays in project development, and we were not able to visit the production. But at the same time, some other projects have been moving faster than expected because customers had high focus on sustainability, and that is further increasing as well. One thing that COVID is also bringing as an increase is the need for hygiene in various applications where we have, for example, made a packaging for fresh sandwiches for retail applications, so that the bread, for example, stays edible for a longer time, and we reduce food waste with that application, and still keeping it hygienic inside the packaging.
Yeah, and have you tried to implement woodly, for example, in hospitals?
We have not looked
implements
into,
or
we have not looked into the pharmaceutical or in the hospital sector.
Yeah. And the other one is, of all the example listed, in which area have you seen that the use of woodly is most likely to scale?
We can see that there is a lot of interest in films and in injection molded items. So those are definitely very, very interesting.
Okay.
Different film packaging, for example.
Perfect. And is it an exportable product, or is it better to produce it locally?
We are already exporting to various continents around the world, so it is not just available here in Europe. Nice. We are welcome to discuss with any customers, and with our growth plan with 10 million tons of production by 2035, we are looking forward to having production on all continents as well. But it will take time.
Of course. Thank you so much for your interesting presentation, Tommy, regarding woodly. Yeah, it was so inspiring. So thank you
very much.
And,
yes.
And nice to meet you.
Yes, same here. Thank you.
Agradecemos también a la amplia audiencia que se encuentra conectada y a quienes nos acompañaron durante todo este seminario de manera presencial y conectados a través del streaming de Expo Corma Digital. Y así damos por finalizado el seminario Bioeconomía y Productos Sustentables en Base a Madera. De esta misma manera agradecemos también a todos quienes nos acompañaron de formato híbrido. Los invitamos a continuar participando de todas las actividades de esta 20ª versión de Expo Corma, Reactivación Verde, Bioeconomía y Sustentabilidad. Muchas gracias y que tengan una excelente tarde.